the first high-profile casualty of the Me Too movement in India, at least as far as the government is concerned. Well, the junior Minister of External Affairs, MJ Akbar, has resigned from his post this afternoon. In a statement, MJ Akbar said, and I quote, "I deem it appropriate to step down from office and challenge the false accusations levied against me. I have decided to seek justice in the court of law." MJ Akbar has filed a defamation case against the journalist who accused him of sexual harassment. A battery of 97 lawyers are representing him in a court. Now he faces allegations of sexual harassment from his journalism days. Several top journalists who worked with him years ago in leading newspapers accused him of inappropriate behavior. Priya Ramani, one of the first journalists to come out and accuse Akbar of sexual misconduct, tweeted after his resignation saying, "As women, we feel vindicated by MJ Akbar's resignation. I look forward to the day when I will also get justice in the court," she said. Remember, MJ Akbar was on a tour to Africa when the allegations against him came to the fore. Since then, neither the government nor the former minister made any statement in the case. Upon his return to India, MJ Akbar brazened it out and filed a criminal defamation case against the journalist who dared to speak out against him. He actually singled out Priya Ramani, who was the first to make that allegation. And this, of course, comes as a surprise move. Nobody was really expecting MJ Akbar to resign. Everybody thought he was going to continue with his stand that he will fight this in the court of law and that he had nothing to hide as well. And my colleague Krishna Kumar is now joining us from the newsroom for the very latest on this change of heart that MJ Akbar seems to have had. And, well, Krishna, there's so much speculation on what exactly happened. Why did he resign today, a day ahead of his court hearing? Was it just the mere pressure that was building up?
No, absolutely. I think he spent way too much time in Africa when the allegations came out. I don't think Mr. MJ Akbar understood the weight or the import of the events in India when he was away in Africa. Right after he came back to India, he did a volte-face, he brazened it out and said that all of the allegations are false, nothing doing. I will hire nearly 100 lawyers, because we know that that has happened, 97 lawyers, and fight this case out. 19, that's the last number as far as the allegations are concerned, crossing into 20. 20 women have come out against MJ Akbar. Now keep in mind, you're talking about it at a time when India's foreign minister herself is a woman. And the junior foreign minister, to hold his position in this environment that the Me Too India movement has created was always going to be extremely difficult. In fact, when he brazened it out, questions were about how is he being even allowed to do this by the government, by the External Affairs Ministry. And clearly the message from what has happened is clear, is that the message has gone to MJ Akbar from the government, that do what you need to, but do not do it as a junior External Affairs Minister, and that's what he has done. He has relinquished his position as a junior External Affairs Minister, but Bhairavi, he is still saying that I'm doing this so that I have, I can fight this in the courts in his individual capacity. So nothing much has changed as far as MJ Akbar is concerned. He continues to claim innocence. What has happened is that he's lost his job, and that is what is being hailed as vindication for the Me Too India movement, which is still at its infancy, with many, many more instances coming out on a daily basis, Bhairavi.
Right. And of course, Krishna, many would of course point out that, the government actually misread the situation to begin with. And now, of course, several speculation is whether the PMO finally stepped in, considering the fact that it has completely gone out of control. So MJ Akbar taking a moral high ground is a different issue altogether, but it was indeed pressure finally that did it.
Oh, absolutely. It was an incredible amount of pressure, and that's what I meant. I don't think MJ Akbar, or for the matter the government, understood what has happened with the Me Too India movement, because keep in mind, this has crossed all boundaries, north to south, east to west, across professions, and Indian women have spoken loud and clear that they are not going to take this anymore, even if it is the great MJ Akbar. And the MJ Akbar case in particular is huge, because you're talking about somebody who works for the government. If the government cannot take action on one of its own then how about the others? What about an actor like Alok Nath, on whom there are some huge allegations and huge accounts of rape that have come out? What about him? If you cannot take action against MJ Akbar, who's part of the government, then what about the others? So that was a question hanging over the government. They did not understand it. The resignation should have ideally taken place upon his arrival to India from Africa. They tried brazening it out, but obviously this movement is here to stay. It's here to bring the high and mighty down. That's the message that MJ Akbar's resignation is sending out.
Well, absolutely, Krishna. It has sent out finally the right message. MJ Akbar, they're stepping down under immense pressure. There 20 journalists have named him for inappropriate behavior. And, of course, that court hearing will start tomorrow. Many, of course, journalists groups have also supported these women. And now MJ Akbar making that surprise move just ahead of that court hearing. And one of those people who actually accused MJ Akbar was Ghazala Wahab. We spoke to her earlier.
You know, the primary objective of this Me Too campaign worldwide and including in India was to demand safe work environment for women. This is what we set out to do, and we hope that at least some beginning has been made in this direction. Now, whether you're talking of specifics like male gaze and patriarchy and other things, they're all part of that, because all of them impinges on safe work environment. So if we are talking of environment where women can feel confident, secure while they're working, earning a living, making a career for themselves, it's fine.
Well, the other big story today, the Sabrimala Shrine in South India has opened its gates to women of menstruating age for the first time today after the Supreme Court verdict last month. Now, the gates were reopened at 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, but tension has been mounting at the Sabrimala temple with devotees, Hindu organizations and various political outfits gearing up for a show of strength against the move to implement the Supreme Court verdict. Two women who tried to enter the Sabrimala shrine earlier were stopped by angry devotees as Kerala remained on the edge over protests against the Supreme Court verdict. We know that there's been wide-scale arson, also, of course, heavy police presence there, as well as the fact that two journalists from two different publications, media houses, were also specifically targeted among many other media personnel who were also made a target of this attack by some rogue elements there. Now, the entry into the shrine for the women of all ages was allowed after that Supreme Court verdict. Security, as we said, has been stepped up on roads leading to the shrine, even as devotees of Lord Ayyappa continue to check vehicles for women between the age of 10 and 50 at Nilakal, the main gateway to Sabrimala shrine. An angry mob protesting against the entry of women into Kerala's Sabrimala temple went on a rampage. You can see those visuals there of the police actually on the back foot. Women and journalists covering the protests were also not spared, and the Travancore Devasam board, the body that administers the shrine, also held a meeting on the matter with all the stakeholders, and the board decided to take a call on the review petition on the 19th of October. Meanwhile, the Kerala Chief Minister has said that the government will not allow anyone to take law and order in their hands. However, we can clearly see things going out of control there in those visuals. Adding, of course, the government also said that we will not submit a review petition as protests escalate in the temple town. Kerala minister has raised doubts over who these miscreants are, hinting at the fact that those indulging in violence at the Sabrimala temple are not devotees.
I can't predict what is going on there. I think it is intentional. It is a dirty politics they are playing. We can't say them they are actual devotees, because in front of God there is no discrimination for women and men. If a woman wants to go to the God and she wants to give their prayers there, she can get relief from their mental tension and other things. If she wants to do so, why they are denying that? Supreme Court order is a very good order, we can say like that. It is constitutional. Our constitutional rights should have to be protected. Government is bounded to implement that Supreme Court verdict, Supreme Court order.
Well, in other news now, the British Prime Minister Theresa May will face the European Union leaders in a make-or-break summit. Ahead of the summit, the British Prime Minister told her cabinet that they would secure a Brexit deal if they stood together. European Union leaders will give Theresa May a tough reception in Brussels. They are expected to warn her to rally support at home for the Brexit deal on offer or be cut loose without one in March. The sticking point remains the thorny issue of the Irish border. The European Union wants the UK to agree to an open border between the Northern Ireland, which will be outside the EU, and the Republic of Ireland, which will remain an European Union member state. The European Council President Donald Tusk has warned the UK that it is barreling towards a disastrous no-deal Brexit, warning that a no-deal scenario was more likely than ever. Tusk says that a breakthrough required more than just goodwill.
For sure, the no-deal scenario is more likely than ever before. But it doesn't mean that it becomes our political priority. Quite the opposite. Because the situation is as tricky as it is today, we need to prepare also this ourselves for this black scenario.
Now, Michael Barnier, the European Union's chief negotiator, also said that the UK government has failed to meet the conditions necessary for a special November Brexit summit to be called. Earlier, May had found little support for her approach in the House of Commons, with attacks from lawmakers on both sides, the left and the right. Opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn had blasted Theresa May's approach, saying the Prime Minister's failure to stand up to the warring factions on her own side has led to this impasse. And while joining us to talk a little bit more about the Brexit no deal is Kevin Osbeck from Brussels and Mandy Clark, who joins us from London. And Mandy, first to you now. You know, the British Prime Minister, of course, has less than 48 hours, I presume, to turn things around for herself as she addresses the meeting of the European Union leaders. What exactly will be, her thinking going ahead, going into this meeting?
Well, she's in a very difficult position. The EU had made it clear that the UK has to come up with some fresh ideas for a solution to the Irish border. And really, that's what they need to settle on. They need the exit strategy. And the main sticking point is the Irish border, finding a solution that works for both sides. Now, they said, come with fresh ideas. But when she tried to get her cabinet to agree on some plan going forward, that doesn't seem to have happened. So unless she pulls, a rabbit out of the hat and has some plan that she hasn't told anyone before, it seems that there'll be a lot of platitudes, her talking up in positive tones about the progress being made, but it doesn't seem like there's fresh ideas. So in that way, it doesn't look like there's going to be any solution or any resolution that will appeal to both sides, so they can allow for that second summit that they were hoping to have in November to finalize the deal. It looks like, she's going to walk away with nothing.
Right, and that could be terrible. And Kevin, you're in Brussels. What is the European Union's thinking? Now, Donald Tusk has already asked Theresa May to come up with some new ideas looking forward. But what possibly could she come up with? The sticking points remain very obvious here. And if she doesn't come up with any new ideas, is she going to be cut loose?
Well, that's a potential, and it's something that both sides, not just London, but also Brussels, want to avoid. They do not want to see a no-deal Brexit. That would create a lot of travel chaos. It would also mean much more expensive goods for consumers in the UK, and ultimately that is going to hurt businesses here on this side of the channel. That's going to, of course, be very bad for EU firms and EU businesses. One thing that's being put out there from Michel Barnier, the chief EU negotiator, is extending this transition period. So Brexit is supposed to be done next year in March, so March of 2019. But there is this 21-month transition period that's going to go until December 2020, in which the UK would still be in the EU single market, and that would give time for businesses to prepare. Well, Barnier is saying we could extend that to 3 years to make that until December 2021. That would give us more time to negotiate a trade deal with the UK, and that would make sure that that hard border would not have to go up in Northern Ireland. We'll see if London likes that idea and if that's something that Theresa May wants to talk with her cabinet. But as you've been talking about, really the EU is saying the ball is in Theresa May's court here. If she wants a deal, she needs to give us some ideas.
Right, and she does definitely need to come up with more ideas, even as, Mandy, some of the more vocal opponents of Theresa May from other countries like, Germany and France have really, gone hard on Theresa May, saying that, she's not doing enough for Britain or for the European Union, or for that matter for Ireland.
And she is in an incredibly weak position, made largely thanks to that snap election. So she does really require the DUP, which is a party in Northern Ireland. Now, they have a very similar stance to the Brexiteers in her party. So even if she found a deal that wouldn't appeal to the Brexiteers in her cabinet, it has to appeal to the DUP as well. So even if she negotiates a deal that is more in line to a softer Brexit, she has to pass it through Parliament, and there's a whole bunch of hurdles she faces there. So she knows she can't come with a deal that will be rejected by the UK Parliament, because then she's just back to square one.
Right, Mandy and Kevin, thanks very much both for joining us this evening on WION Dispatch. We certainly hope that there will be some deal in the days to come. Thanks for that. The Turkish media report is to be believed. Well, it took 7 minutes to kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate. The Middle East Eye has published first details of audio tape acquired by the Turkish investigators probing what happened to the Saudi journalist, and the details are absolutely chilling. Now, a Turkish source claims to have heard the audio recording of Khashoggi's dying moments. The source says that Jamal Khashoggi was dragged from the Consul General's office at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and onto a table on his study next door. Horrendous screams were then heard by the witnesses downstairs. It is believed that Jamal Khashoggi's body was dismembered while he was still alive. Now, it was a 15-member squad who arrived in Ankara on a private jet on 2nd of October to perform that task. And Salah Mohammed al-Tubaigi was part of that squad that dismembered Jamal Khashoggi's body. He has been identified as the head of the forensic evidence, in Saudi Security Department. Now, the screaming stopped when Khashoggi was injected with an unknown substance. As he started to dismember the body, Tubaigi put on earphones and he listened to music. He advised the other members of the squad to do the same. And this took just 7 minutes, yes, just 7 minutes to kill the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And well, let's listen into the latest reaction from the US President Donald Trump on what he has to say about Jamal Khashoggi's death.
Whether or not the king or the crown prince knew about it, in my opinion. Number one, what happened, but whether or not they knew about it. If they knew about it, that would be bad. If they didn't know about it, bad things can happen.